not easy for someone's team to qualify for Worlds unless they win the split.
We wanted to see a team challenge Fnatic, a team who could beat Fnatic. In Origen, they showed up big time.
They showed that they can beat Fnatic even, and Fnatic was like kind of this dominant force in Europe.
At the same time as being really sad, we're also really proud of ourselves, how much we achieved in our first split. I think it will only get better from now.
The only thing that could happen for them is that they will be a bit overconfident after their games against Fnatic.
Origen, they've played a near flawless game.
They don't really have a weak link in their team. Every one of their members is really strong. They will not make it easy for us.
I don't think we have anything to worry about. As long as we get to the finals, I think we'll make it to Worlds.
Welcome to day 2 of the European LCS Regional Qualifier, where 2 best-of-5 stand between our teams and the 2015 World Championship. We are coming to you from our studio in Berlin, Germany. As you can see, our teams are setting up just a moment ago. OG coming into the building, out of the sunlight, into the darkness of the studio, where they have to make it happen here today. As Roccat was, well, improving their mechanics by the pool and playing a little bit of football or soccer, but I'm not going to go into that. And there is Crepo and Trevor doing some vocal exercises to make sure that their voice holds on during this series, hopefully for the full 5 games. Hello, I'm Eve Shogzaportre here with James Stress O'Leary and Martin de Fischo Lunge as Origen takes on Roccat with a shot at Worlds on the line. Yeah, Origen versus Roccat today, of course. Yesterday, Roccat, convincing performance. They swept Giants 3-0 in our first round of the regional qualifier. Good performance by them.
Really good performance. A lot of improvement made by Roccat. Again, Giants not showing up though. Really not fair to say to Roccat that it was all for them. Actually, no, I think Roccat made a lot of improvement. What I was going to say though,
What's your point, Stress?
It is fair to say that Nukeduck did step
Yes.
up. It was the mouth, the Crepo with his warm-up just threw me off.
I don't blame you for that one. But yeah, Nukeduck showed up big time. We've seen that for multiple weeks, and he obviously has to be a key member for Roccat today. And as you mentioned here, the question really is, did Giants even challenge Roccat? Did they have to fix anything? We have seen some problems coming into this game. They showed up big time. They deserve to be here now, and we have to see what they can do versus Origen.
And I think one of the things to look at is, yes, Roccat stepped up. Yes, Giants didn't really show up themselves, but Roccat did make some mistakes as well. When you look at some of the plays they made down into the bottom side of the map, it was evident that Roccat still aren't a top tier team. That, you know, going up against Origen today, they might have to iron out a couple of kinks in that play.
Yeah, I mean, we have an example here, what you just mentioned, how Roccat is setting up a tower dive. They have TP ready, but they don't use it. And in the end, the execution is just very poor. Whirlip comes in and forces Roccat away. They end up dying for it. Even in the mid lane, they took a lot of damage from it. So these kind of plays, Giants as a team might get 1 kill on you, and that's about it. But Origen, they will take almost everything. And we have seen how good Origen is at snowballing elite. Roccat cannot make these mistakes today.
Yeah, Roccat indeed a new challenger approaches today in Origen. They have to take them on and look to challenge them for the right to take on the Unicorns of Love tomorrow. Remember, in the gauntlet here, each match is a best-of-5, and the team left standing at the end of Monday's games will take the final and the 3rd European seed at Worlds 2015. Fair to say that consistency is very important, but also adaptability. And yesterday, we saw a lot out of Roccat, actually showing that they completely control 5.14, but maybe they'll need a bit more even.
Sure, they'll need a little bit more, but I think what we saw was the correct things from Roccat yesterday. They played all the right picks, and even Steve showed up on the gangplank, had a decent performance. So I think they showed a lot of things that Origen needs to respect coming into the pick and bans phase now. But also we saw both teams, both in the final for Origen and now in this match for Roccat, that they know what to play in 5.14. So we might see a lot of the same champions, you know, overlap.
Well, we'll see how good Roccat can do and if they can repeat yesterday's performance today as they face Origen. And after our best-of-5 here in Berlin, LA takes over for their 2nd round in the NA Regional Qualifier between Team Impulse and Cloud9. I was about to go to bed yesterday when Game 3, and then it turned out to be fantastic best-of-5 series.
The reverse sweep coming out from Cloud9.
And Mumu hype.
No,
wait, he lost. No Mumu hype.
I love it though from the side of Hai. He's just like, yeah, I'm going to play a Mumu, I'm going to play Shyvana, I'm going to play Kha'Zix, and then in the end, just doing very good with Elise. It was an interesting series to watch, sadly, for Gravity though.
I'm just happy we saw some changes for Cloud9 in the pick and ban phase. They went to something that was a little bit more safe, maybe, in some ways. Even though it's a Kha'Zix pick, it was a little bit better than the Amumu, and they managed to win the game.
And the Virus Essence Reaver. So much.
I mean, that was a little bit of everything.
A lot of everything. Well, we're going to turn it back over to here in Europe, though, and dial in on our big challenge here for Roccat, today's best of 5 against Origen. Let's start by taking a look at the lineups, starting with Origen, who finished second in the summer playoffs with Soaz, Amazing, Expeke, Niels, Mithy, and their coach, Leduc. And on the other side, Roccat looking to, triumph over them in this best of 5 and make it to tomorrow's finals. Steve, Jankos, Mukduk, Mr. Owls, Vander, and their coach, Yamato Cannon. As said already, Roccat looking solid yesterday versus the Giants. So can you put your finger on some things that they specifically fixed that was worse from them in the regular season?
Coming into quarterfinals and now also this match here, what we had seen as problems for Roccat was the shot calling, and then also the very passive early game, mainly due to the shot calling not being good enough, and it led to very inconsistent games, even though they have some good players on this lineup here. It definitely looked better yesterday versus Giants. They were more proactive in the early game. They were setting up tower dives. I really liked how they were using minion waves in the side lane, so they get these 3 or 4-man dives, and then also just camping for Nuke Dog in the mid lane, getting more enabled in the game early on.
And I think it makes for a very interesting matchup today now. We've got Roccat improving. On the other side of the rift, Origen, a team that improved to a level we hadn't seen them thus far in the summer split against Fnatic. Taking Fnatic, the first game in that best of 5 series of the finals was domination from Origen. Just a very strong performance. They did lose 3-2 in that finals, but they did easily match Fnatic. That's one of the biggest things. You look at when they had standard lanes, they matched Fnatic. You look at when they lane swapped, Fnatic were a little bit behind in their pacing of the game. So I actually feel like this is the strongest Origen we've seen yet this split.
Very good by them, and one of the strongholders on that team. Soaz in playoffs, we know he's pretty good in playoffs, but then what he did there, even with his opposing or a counterpart there, Huni, who had been revered throughout the entire season, and he took him to court.
It really was a big story, seeing Soaz show up again and again and again. I mean, this guy's been here for so many years, and yet he keeps finding it. He beat Huni on the gangplank. He was better than him. And we're going to have to see what Steve can do today, because it's going to be somewhat the same matchup again in terms of champion pools. But we would obviously normally say that Huni would be a lot better than Steve, and that wasn't a problem for Soaz. So I see really a big mismatch up there. And also, I mean, that's why we have to look at it more even in terms of champion pools. Like, what can Steve pull out that Soaz wouldn't be able to play?
Right, because their champion pools are so similar, and we were saying maybe it's the gangplank that is the separator between the two of them, but Steve shows us yesterday he plays the gangplank, but one of the biggest factors in this matchup is going to be that Lulu top potential. We've spoken about how Lulu is a flex pick. We've seen, just the impact of it in yesterday's series. That's a big one for Soaz, and especially with Origen's newfound priority on Soaz in lane swaps. When they found themselves against Fnatic, Soaz in the playoffs has stepped up his lane swap game astronomically. He's now ahead at 10 minutes rather than behind, which he was for the entire regular split. And, a big change like that to a top laner is a massive statement towards this game, potentially, when you go against a top laner like Steve.
And to go back towards the picks here, one of the things about the Lulu is, because he's shown it in the top lane, Steve has not. If Roccat does get the hands of Lulu, we would assume it goes to Nuke Dog in the middle lane, and that removes a lot of the carry potential he has shown for Roccat lately. So unless Steve can play it, it would be in there and almost an advantage for Origen if Lulu gets picked by Roccat. Otherwise, they will take it for Soaz no matter what.
Yeah, Lulu's so incredibly important also in that Game 5, by the way, in that finals between Fnatic and OG. Stepping away from some of the individual talent, let's take a look at decision-making and playing as a team, something that has been very important for OG. Amazing, together with Mithy roaming and playing the map. How will their counterparts do?
That's another really unique dynamic in this matchup, because speaking of the Roccat jungle and support combination, yesterday we actually heard from Jankos the differences between Frederick from Giants, who they just beat, and Origen. He said, amazing, he's a very strong jungler. He said he's expecting to be challenged. Now you pair that with Mithy, who's a very strong support player when it comes to their synergy. That's a dangerous combination.
I personally think that Mithy and Amazing together are the best support and jungle duo we have in the entire West. Because what they do on the map is so impressive when it comes to always being there as backup basically for the 3 lanes. If you go back and watch the Fnatic series, you're going to see it's always Mythy and Amazing moving around, preventing dives from happening on Niels or on Soas, setting up the vision control and always be there when they are diving themselves. So everything Origen does in the early game is built around these 2 guys. And that's why they also have lost to Roccat in the past, because they've been shut down by Vander and Amazing, Vander and Jankos, which I don't expect to see happen again, because I think Amazing and Mythy really are just getting better and better together with the rest of Origen.
Yeah, another in maybe for Roccat to shut down Origen early could be that mid lane matchup. Of course, the Azir performance by XPK wasn't the best in the finals, but he still had a solid series overall. So how will this play out?
It shows us that it's another pick that is contested. Peke was, you know, you look at all the players on Origen in the finals, and if you put your finger on one thing, Peke, some of his performances were a little bit lackluster. Then again, you look, he's up against Forbiven, who is, you know, pretty much one of the top 2 mid laners. I think it is fair to say, however, though, that Nukeduck, while he's on the up and up himself, should be able to challenge XPK in today's matchup.
Yeah, I think this is the only lane where Origen potentially could be weaker in this matchup here. I see Source being better than Steve. I see Amazing out jungle Jankos. I think the bottom lane is going to win for Origen as well if you just look like player for player. This is the only one where Peke has shown a few weak signs, but it's not been enough to really make it a problem, I think. He can go even in lane versus Nukeduck easily and then just take it into team fights from there. So I don't think it's going to be a massive problem for Origen, but it is where Roccat could strike.
I don't completely agree. I also think that in the jungle, even though Amazing is super strong, you can never count out Jankos, especially with early game pressure. And if
I'm looking at consistency here, though.
Yeah, that's
Amazing.
Good.
Always shows up.
That is true. Well, we'll see. Let's take a look at some of the flex picks that will be important in the series. Yesterday, we looked at what has Roccat picked, what have they shown so far. Of course, some things in there. Gangplank, probably a must-pick in ban, and a lot of these could end up in the bans.
We looked at the 3 key champions, perhaps, or even 4 if you include Gangplank, and there they are, plus Azir. We looked at it, the flex picks, Lulu, Fizz, Shen, Roccat pulled out all of them, and, you know, on the other side of things, if the Gangplank isn't in there in the top lane, 4 or 5 of these are going to be banned in just about every game.
And that's going to be the crazy thing here in the pick and ban phase, because the champion pools are so similar across the teams. We see both teams pick blue side every time they have the chance, so it goes Origen first game, then Roccat second game, and they keep switching. Simply because you now have so many OP picks that you want to get rid of. So on blue side, if you manage to ban away 3 of them and the other team does the same, you should be able to get like 1 single pick left that really stands above the rest, and that's what they're aiming for. Could be an Elise first pick maybe on the side of Jankos or for Amazing to take over the jungle matchup, which is so important here. It's just very interesting to see how they're switching sides, and everyone wants blue side in this matchup because of so many strong picks.
Yeah, we'll see which player gets which champion and if they get their favorites. There are a lot of clutch head-to-heads across the Rift, and we want to know what you think. Tweet at LL Esports and tell us which lane matchup will decide today's series and why. As always, include that hashtag LCS so we can talk over your answers later today, and tweet at LL Esports. Now, as we head to the casters for Game 1, we're going to stop over on stage for a word with one of the minds behind Origen.
Thank you very much, Shox. I'm here with Leduc ahead of his game. Now, first off, Leduc, you played, of course, in Stockholm in the Grand Finals up against Fnatic, and you guys looked incredible. You took the first 2 games that we've seen anyone take off Fnatic in this split so far. What did you do with the team to have that such a big improvement compared to the rest of the split?
I think having several weeks of preparing against like 1 or 2 opponents, and so much being on the line, it just really, really helps the team to push themselves to the top and chase after Fnatic. I think that was definitely one of the main difference. More preparation time and a really strong opponent.
A really strong opponent, and you're also facing Roccat today. How do you think this one's going to go? Of course, they have the 2-0 head-to-head record over you. Of course, those were best of ones, though, and maybe a lot's changed since now.
I don't really care about a BO1 that happened a few months back, so I don't think it's like I really don't mind those games.
Well, you're going to be playing against them today, of course, and do you feel like you've revealed your hand a little against Fnatic because you threw everything at them, even the kitchen sink? Do you feel that people have maybe figured you out because we've been on the same patch for such a long time now?
We showed a lot, I agree on that, but you have to also keep in mind that we can't show everything because we play against Fnatic. So we have a few new tricks up our sleeves as well against Roccat. I expect them to reveal them today, and I think we're going to be fine.
Okay, well, Yamada was saying yesterday about maybe showing your hands, and he was saying, well, if it bleeds, we can kill it. Do you have any thoughts on that one? Anything to say back to Yamada?
I think we bleed because we played against a tiger that's called Fnatic. Roccat for me is more like a beautiful cat you really want to pet it, but it keeps running away, and you end up being disappointed. So that's what I have to say.
Well, the Roccat is going to go down. Thank you very much, Ducky. Good luck with this game. And before we head to the casters, we're going to hear how Rallet thinks they have an edge in the mid lane.
If they have one losing matchup, they will always swap around, so that losing matchup will get equal farm. But I think one of the weaknesses is definitely FLICKR. His map pool is not that good, and he's definitely the weakest player on the team, and I think Nukeduck is the best mid lane in Europe, so we should have an advantage there.
That must be one of my favorite quotes we've ever heard. A little kitten that just, you want to pet and it keeps disappointing you. I'm Quickshot here with Crepo as Origen are set up on stage on the blue side against Roccat. One last reminder, we are on patch 5.14. It will be the second last best of 5 before we move to 5.15 next weekend. We heard the analysts talking about picks and bans, Lulu, Shen, Fizz, Zia. What are we expecting to be the highest priority as we jump into picks and bans?
I wonder if Roccat has a counter to Gangplank already. Otherwise, it has to be almost first pick, especially if you see just how well Soas played at. He was a better Gangplank than Huni. He completely schooled Huni, both in barrel control and just in the matchup overall. Fnatic allegedly had that Riven counter ready. Steve, to me, doesn't strike me as a Riven main. You know, Riven counter, he's going to just wreck Gangplank in lane. So that will be definitely a big question mark. I just want to reiterate the point that the Fischio made on the analyst desk too. If Lulu goes to the hands of Roccat, can Steve actually play it, or will it end up in mid lane? Because then otherwise it's a favor for Origen, because a neutral Lulu pick in the mid lane allows Expected to farm, removes the double gank threat from Roccat kinda, because it's not worth ganking for Lulu all that much. So we'll have to see what the remaining picks end up being.
Well, there's the Lulu off the table already. Origen targeting Nukeduck at their bans, Azir and Yasuo gone. Peke's Azir left a little bit to be desired when we saw it in the finals. And interestingly, Peke has run Vladimir into Azir in the past, but it was a long time ago, only week 5. Roccat will reply with a Kalista. So on track, the Yasuo is only a little surprising.
See, I like getting rid of the unconventional mid picks from Nukeduck and just making sure Expected gets to that laning phase. In the interview, obviously Mr. Alice came out and said, well, we have the best mid laner in Europe, and Expect is the weakest link on their team. I don't know if I agree with that, but I do think the matchup, respectively, between the mid laners is the closest one in this series.
Yeah, and of course that Yasuo pick from Nukeduck was what allowed Roccat to beat Origen the last time they met. Origen are 0-2 against Roccat. Victor's taken off the table, so Shen is still up, and GP as well. Those are the two big discussions that we had, as well as Siva.
And people will expect the Gangplank first lock in here for Origen, unless they want to use this first game to just sniff out whether Roccat actually can play it into Soas well enough, or Soas as a counter. You know, teams maybe just getting information in this first game of the series and then adapting picks and bans later on. We saw Origen adapt pretty well against Fnatic in that series as well. That's why it went to a game 5. So obviously you have no clue what these teams and these captains in terms of their coaches are thinking.
Yeah, and we heard Ducky on stage saying we couldn't show everything because it was against Fnatic. We had to try being our A game, and it will be a first lock-in Gangplank. Relatively safe for those barrels. Now we see whether Steve has a counter.
Obviously, we didn't mention Elise. The prime jungler pick for early aggression is open and can neutralize the jungler and then get access to the lane. So that might be a pick for Yankas here. Overall, I wonder if Roccat is actually going to pick up the Ahri early to get some pressure in the mid lane, even though Yamato came out with some pretty strong words about that champion pick on the analyst test. So perhaps they just wait for Nukeduck to counterpick later on in the series.
And on this patch, Ahri's been played 7 times, only by Ryu and Expected. Those are the only players that have played that champion. So we'll find out whether or not they have a priority with so many bans on the mid lane. But we've seen Peke running Twisted Fate as well. There's a few other options. Oriana's up there.
Yeah.
Not really their mains, but
in scenarios like this, when Azir and Victor are off the table, you obviously see other mid laners rise to the occasion, and then you can easily see an Ahri versus Oriana matchup in the mid lane come out at either side. And it looks like Roccat is not going to go for the Elise. They're just going to say, Origen, do you really want that? We may have an answer ready, and they're going to go for the early Sivir, and they definitely want to lock in that Ahri. So it seems that Nukeduck wants to have this matchup ready into whatever Peke has left in his champion pool.
Yeah, and it's definitely hitting Peke again with all of these champions off the table.
Yeah,
find out what he's going to prioritize. A few options, but of course not taking the Elise means Amazing will next to insta-lock that and the Braum, which is just continuing to show strength and power on this patch.
I mean, I don't have to repeat myself too much. I'm a big Braum fanboy overall. I think it is added value to taking it here because you take it away from Roccat and it doesn't allow them to block the exploding barrels from the Gangplank later on in the game. So less peel again. We might see an Alistar come out here on the side of Vander or his, his comfort pick, which is the Thresh. Overall though, I think Origen is leading in the draft so far.
So a decent start then for Origen. For Roccat, they've got a mixture of sort of everything. Some wave clear, some engage, some pick. With Gragas, they've got some more disengage thrown into the mix. And Alistar could add to the front line, but what are they running into Gangplank? That is the big question that I still want to know. Fizz is gone. We've seen Steve play Rumble. Maokai's up. But what do you want to run against a scurvy pirate like that?
Quite peculiar that Rocket's keeping their 5th pick counter pick for the top lane, no flex pick in the remaining role, so it's a solo counter pick on that Gangplank, even though it was revealed in the very first rotation of this pick and ban phase. You always have to look at jungle and top lane combined, of course. Gangplank and Elise is one of the very, very strong early game jungler duos, so we need to see what Steve whips out, or if Roccat are going to go for the lane swap. They might want to see what Origen ends up picking in the AD carry position and see if they can prompt the lane swap to get through the early game phase that way and then just start rotating and making picks with the Sivir on the hunt.
We'll find out in a few seconds as Origen are going to lock in what is expected to be their mid laner with P.E.K.K.A sitting on Flash Teleport. You have to expect the likes of Diana, maybe Twisted Fate. Something that we have seen a couple of times in recent weeks. They've only got a few seconds left. With the single target focus champions we've seen from Elise, from Vayne, maybe a TF would be smarter, but if they want scaling, they're kind of going all in as far as their solo lanes are concerned.
The fact that P.E.K.K.A had to pick up Vladimir here does seem like Roccat did a good job in hitting him in terms of champion pool. I do think eliminating the Fizz and the Azir and the Victor out of the draft and then just early picking the Ahri seems that P.E.K.K.A has to go for Vladimir. Vladimir by no means is a bad pick, but it requires scaling. It allows Roccat to push in the mid lane early, get more pressure, and then start challenging mid-team and Amazing when they go for that vision a little more and hopefully snowball the game that way. Obviously, the guy that has to survive will be Steve in the top lane against that Gangplank.
So, P.E.K.K.A 4-1 on that Vladimir. The only team that gave him a loss was, in fact, Roccat. And it was actually a game where I believe Nukeduck was running Azir. That is ifs and buts. It will be the Hecarim now locked in to challenge Origen. So a lot of mobility, a lot of team fight, and those TP ganks could be very impactful. But Steve's first game on Hecarim, he fed a lot because he was focused heavily, lacking that utility summoner.
Yeah, he didn't have the flash that game and obviously was a rough entry into the LCS. So if we compare both these compositions, what strikes me the most is the lack of innate wave clear on Origen's side. They really need to change some barrels to get that wave clear off, or P.E.K.K.A needs to run into the wave. If you compare that to Roccat, they can have Ahri max range wave clear, barrels can help a little bit, and Sivir can always rotate into the mid lane to start clearing those waves. So quicker plays can come out of Roccat, and Origen, they will have to play slower and set up their plays a little better, use the side waves to their control and just start pressuring the map that way. They've shown in the finals that they can do that, but they have a risky composition if they should fall behind because Roccat can spike very hard in the mid game.
We'll find out whether or not Roccat will get the opportunity to spike in the mid game. They came out the gates a little slow yesterday against Giants. They won't have that opportunity against Origen. The lineups are locked in. Let's dive into the second round of the 2015 European Regional Qualifiers.
The gauntlet is going to be pretty tough for us.
It is about being good, and then you need to be proactive. Is the key to victory.
The best team is gonna make it out of the gauntlet.
It will mean a lot to go to the World Championship. It's every player's dream.
They obviously want to go to Worlds. They will not make it easy for us.
Want to go to Worlds. That is what is on the line in the regional qualifier. Roccat have already defeated one opponent on the way to the finals. They'll have to take down the only team to give Fnatic a loss this summer. It is Origen in game one of our best of five. You guys know the hashtags. You guys know the Twitter. Let us know who you think will be victorious this series. And
if you don't know the hashtags, hashtag OG win, hashtag ROC win, if you're a Twitter noob.
Permanent support professionalism, Crepo.
Alright. But I'm worried about Origen if they fall behind. I think the composition is nice, but it's a little greedy in terms of wave clear. However, I love seeing Niels play that Vayne. In the first game of the split, I believe he started playing Vayne. It was against H2K, where he got ahead with Miffy and he tumbled out of the Sivir boomerangs as well, and he got a lead that way. So really good performance of him on the multiple times I've seen him play Vayne. Obviously, he's not afraid to play at the front of the fight. We saw that against Fnatic too. when he was backed up by the Lulu, etc., he was right in front, dodging skill shots. If he gets hit, he's dead, but he never got hit. He's so good at sidestepping things. And Miffy Niels as a whole, as a duo, are very strong in lane.
And we do see Niels and Miffy already in lane. They've walked across 2 Roccat wards at this point in time. Roccat seems to have initiated the lane swap, so clever warding from Roccat. And we'll see which jungler is going to get enabled from this lane swap. We talked about how Origen could match Fnatic's lane swap. Can Roccat get one step ahead of Origen's game plan? I mean, they've got a team comp that could punish early, but Roccat as a team, not traditionally been able to do that.
Well, in the lane swap, obviously the map opens up a little more, and this gives much more the advantage to these teams that have the quick wave clear. If these side lanes start stacking up, towers go down, lanes get longer, it is much quicker for Roccat to quickly go clear wave. Spam some abilities and it's gone. Whereas opposed, imagine if Niels has to go clear 12 creeps. That is going to take a while. Compare that with Rawless, who can just move over, cast Q, W, 3 auto attacks, and the wave is gone. So in the mid game, this will obviously give more momentum to Roccat.
We'll see if they can use that momentum. Roccat were able to punish Giants yesterday. And Roccat looked better than they have all split long. And now their opponent is theoretically much stronger. You see Jankos and Steve, they're holding hands in the jungle, and we can see on the opposite side an invasion from Soaz and Amazing.
Yeah, very safe invaded too. They obviously have some deep wards there, so they know pretty much exactly that the map is divided to the left side and the right side right now, compared to the traditional bottom and top side, because that's what happens in the lane swap. We'll have to see how quick these towers go down. We have 3 Origen members in the bot lane right now. This is what lane swaps have devolved into. It started with the 4v0, now back to the 3v0 standard. Roccat are late to this tower though, so as a reaction, they may actually have to send over Jankos to help speed up that tower clearing process, because look at the damage on the tower from Origen as well. If you get that tower down first, the momentum it gives allows you to be one step ahead. A team like Origen, if they're one step ahead in the lane swaps, they will punish you eventually.
Especially with a team composition that wants to go even into mid-game and scale to late. So for Origen, they will get this tower. We'll take a quick look at Roccat. I think should clear it relatively soon though.
And when Origen has played lane swaps like this, usually they've bounced the wave back to Niels and sent Soaz back to the top lane, because they really like having their top laner in the top lane in the second phase of the lane swap. It does look, however, that this time, because he's playing Gangplank, he's actually going to get the farm. So Niels and Miffy are going to head top. They may relinquish Dragon Control, but they have a Scuttle Crab there already, so they can move around what Roccat could do as a reaction, and likely invade with Deep Red Vision should the Dragon ever come out.
And Roccat also do similar, donating the tower gold to Steve, 275 for that Hecarim. So both top lane carries getting a little bit of early assistance. And we saw Soaz's barrel mechanics in the final. He'll need to keep up that level of play, because he's the only safe wave clear that Origen has to play with.
And we're now around the 4-minute mark, the 4th minute mark. This is when you usually see the supports roam mid, because this is a passive matchup, expect edges base. They actually opt to not do that. Soaz knows if he frees, they'll just come and push him off the freeze and deny him farm. So he actually pushed back the wave towards Roccat. He doesn't mind that. He already secured himself some juicy CS. He's 10 CS up on Steve. Whereas Steve, he let the wave freeze, then he based. So Steve actually just lost some farm there. He could have actually pushed out initially first. So it is hard to see what the right thing is, push or freeze in multiple cases. But Steve ended up basing, and now he goes towards Soaz, but he's already down 12 CS. I'm just going to double check on experience here. Steve is level 3.4. And Soaz is a full level ahead of him already.
Big difference. The experience is something that I like to talk about that is a little more difficult to see. And talking about that first step, you can see Origen already on the tower in the top lane. Because Niels and Miffy got there first, FLICKR has eaten a charm already. And this is a matchup that we wanted to look at. FLICKR's champion pool got pinched, and it went back to something he hasn't played in over 7 weeks. Week 5 of the regular season was the last time we saw Vladimir.
It is, however, incredibly hard to successfully gank a Vladimir, at least in one attempt. You'll need at least 2 attempts to get him. Look at the amount of defensive summoners that he has, in addition to that Sanguine pool. Yesterday, hang on, Nuktok.
Wow, FLICKR eats a charm. That makes life a little easier.
Well, there's no jungle around, so that's fine. But yesterday, Roccat was camping the hell out of mid lane. That was their plan. Kill Pepinero 3 times, make him tilt, and just get him off the map. But this time, Jankos couldn't find an opening. Roccat earlier pinged him out, so they have a good idea of where he is on the map. Now he's just going to show top, so Roccat giving away much information, and meanwhile Soaz is comfortably farming and winning that bot lane matchup. Look at Amazing, he's supplementing the top laner. Jankos isn't doing anything on this top lane, he is losing the pressure.
There is no flash for Steve. If a cocoon connects and a barrel gets chained, Steve is going to be in trouble. Soaz is moving up. Steve is trying to play that guitar to his heart's content, and Amazing realizes they don't want this. He's just going to do a drive-by.
It's a little weird.
Tell me why.
Just nothing happened.
No, I was really expecting the dive.
Yeah, we were getting ready for hype first blood.
I'm building up the hype, and then Amazing's just like, no. Hashtag not worth, and they backed away.
Alright, so this gives Yanko some more time to farm. Obviously, he was just shadowing that lane, making his presence known, but it allowed Roccat to push in. Now they can start moving these pieces around on the chessboard. If you group a couple of members mid, FLICKR will have an incredibly hard time clearing his wave. Look at how he's zoned already in this matchup. Nukeduck's level 6, FLICKR's level 6, but the kill potential, the threat is all on Nukeduck's side, especially when Jankos is hovering on the left side of this lane.
Means FLICKR is going to back away. I think that wave was pushing towards Nukeduck. We'll see if he's going to reset it. Minions are still pushing a little bit in his favor. That Orb Deception means FLICKR will lose maybe 1 or 2 CS before he gets in lane. Marginally down, but that is balanced out by the fact Steve is behind Soaz.
Yeah, so what Nukeduck did there was freeze the wave and tell FLICKR, if you want to stay in lane, you will have to fight to come and get your CS. Obviously, the reaction from FLICKR will be base. Then the reaction from Nukeduck is push out, because otherwise FLICKR will come back with an item lead, full health, and he will just destroy Nukeduck, and then Nukeduck's behind on the base. So good play by both these players. The correct choices were made. But overall, Roccat leads slightly in gold, but I feel like Origen is leading in terms of scaling and pressure.
We'll find out if Origen can keep it up. They've been given a small reprieve that Mr. All's first item choice after a longsword is an Avarice Blade. So Niels with a Cutlass already, he's not going to be under as much pressure as what would have been a BF sword Sivir, but we'll see if Mr. Ross can farm up quickly enough to get that 2 item spike.
Yeah, so Raw is just saying, okay, we're not going to fight, we're only going to farm. I'm just going to get more money's worth out of my farming. As a Vayne, you're happy to see this, though. If the worst point in your build, the really hard threshold, is Cutlass into BF sword. That is the roughest part of any Vayne matchup, and if you can dodge that, either Cutlass into pickaxe or Cutlass into, hey, Avarice Blade, then you're obviously really happy. You see on the bottom side of the map, Origen are picking up a dragon, and this is some of the Giants members criticize Roccat for not being able to play aggressive. And this is kind of showing on the map right now. Origen could be punished a lot harder for their lack of wave clear, for their early game, just for the way this game plays out. But Roccat are making greedy choices, passive choices. They're afraid to make a mistake, and they're losing their blue buff already.
So blue buff down, dragon down, despite having a marginal gold lead. For Origen, very happy to go even. We see Steve with his first back. He's already picked up those Ninja Tabby and an early Home Guard. So if a teleport play were to start with Onslaught of Shadows, that could be extremely impactful, but he has to deal with Cannon Barrage and a potential follow from Gangplank as well.
I do like the early Home Guards. I think that's something that was lacking overall in Europe this season. Teleport top laners were played, but very often with no Home Guard. So the flanks, they weren't really there, and that seems to be something that Roccat actually values. They win a lot of their games by just sending Steve in a teleport flank position, usually with Maokai, this time with Hecarim, to see if he can pull it off, because obviously he has very little damage. A lot of his gold is spent on defensive stat. You know, Ninja Tabi obviously doesn't help you go all that offensive, and then Home Guards is a bit of a gold sink, so we need to see if he can pay off on that investment.
We'll find out whether or not he can claim those dividends. Because for the time being, it's been a fairly standard lane swap. Initiated by Roccat, Origen, you can argue, had a tiny window of advantage to at least get in a tower early and some damage in the top outer turret. But as it stands, both teams happy and content to farm their way up. And we need to see where the next point of engage is going to be, because for Origen, the longer this laning phase extends, the happier they are going to be.
Yeah, for me, Origen has already won this lane swap. The fact that they had an initial experience lead on their top laner, their bot lane didn't get challenged, their mid laner has almost no wave clear but didn't get grouped upon. They got the early dragon in addition to that, have good vision control. They got to level 6 comfortably on all their members except Mithi, who will hit it soon. Yeah, Origen, they're definitely happy with this lane swap because they still have to get over the biggest hurdle, which is the mid game. By no means have Roccat fallen behind this game, but this is just a big discrepancy in terms of mid game power that Origen will need to survive. Now finally we see Roccat moving to the mid lane.
FLICKR is in so much trouble. He's knocked up, he's charmed. Sanguine's going to come out, and Ghost with the barrel sends him for a drink of water at the fountain. Well executed by Roccat.
Big mistake from FLICKR. You need to see that gang coming. They were in a screen. You could have flashed earlier, pulled earlier, ghosted earlier, anything earlier. That's fine, and then don't waste it at the end. He was dead already. So a bit of an oversight from Origen in their vision control, and FLICKR could have reacted to that because Vander entered his screen within vision before that combo connected. You could have easily pulled that combo, but props to Roccat for pulling off that gank, and that's what they need to do. Punish the fact that Origen could fall behind in terms of map control, move in. Even if they don't kill Expected there, they chunk him out, and that takes away, chips away tower damage, gives away map control in terms of warding. Now Soas gets his base cancelled. Look where Rallis is, full HP, they're pressuring, so Roccat, they have their foot on the pedal.
And let's see if they can get anything from it. Origen want to reply. They're down a kill. The body slam comes in from Jankos. Exhaust is thrown onto the horse. And Jankos just gets melted by Niels' Vayne. Steve puts the onslaught of shadows down to reply. It's been a 1-for-1. Amazing's forced to flash out. The barrels are out, and that's going to burn through.
Good flash.
Defensive flash from Soaz, and the ticking down from the Ignite, or the passive rather, from GP. Gets one more kill. Pekke's come in as well. Cocoon connects. There's no flash from Pekke. Amazing's looking for more. He's not going to find it. And they end up trading what was 2 for 2 in the top lane.
I respect it. Amazing, not getting out of there. So a couple of nice flashes though from both these teams. Managed to survive on a sliver of health. Obviously, wouldn't mind seeing that again. Obviously, we did not count in Rallis, who was all the way in the bottom lane, because there was supposed to 4v5 on the top lane and the tower. That's why it was so close. But Rallis, he's been chipping away at this tower. He now gets it to about 20%. He's going to let the wave die. So that will be a gold increase for Roccat. And they end up in the lead overall. Greedy from Roccat, honestly trying to defend this tower. They get lucky that Amazing takes tower aggro. A good read by Jankos for the body slam though, but he drops. But it gets rid of the repel at least. Now Nukta comes in, gets cancelled a couple of times, but he's keeping a lot of these members low. Look at Steve, dodges the barrels, but then Soas barely dodges that Orb Deception with a flash. Good play. I think Origen right here need to disengage. This cocoon is nice if you land it. But Amazing was expecting a potential flash here from Expected, but just couldn't quite get it. But overall, solid play from Roccat holding it. They lost 2 members for 2, but they had Wallace pushing in the bot lane.
Oh, they did, and it's going to be another one here. Pekke's in trouble. He's going to sanguine away. I think the charm was held. Not going to matter because Jankos gets another one, and Pekke with no summoners, unable to avoid the second gank.
And Origen need to play with more respect for this Roccat lineup. The lack of wave clear is coming to bite them in the ass because it's just not really working out for them. They just get out-rotated because they don't have the forward pressure. Every time the lanes just get pushed in so easily, Pekke tries to push out that wave. He gets surprised all of a sudden. Roccat now sitting on a comfortable 1.6k gold lead here. Overall, good early game.
Yeah, decent turnaround from Roccat. Slow out of the gates, but they've made up for it in the last few minutes. And with Dragon up in 30 seconds, quite a few cooldowns available. We'll see if they're going to risk challenging. We did see the tower go down bottom lane, as you mentioned, Crepo, where that gold lead has come from. And Raz has also reset to defend down the top outer turret as one of the primary wave clear champions for Roccat.
The tower to watch, though, is the one in the mid lane. If that one falls, then Roccat can start playing the map. Because Origen are doing a good job at sneaking into the enemy jungle and taking away a couple of buffs. Really impressive how they've been doing that. The second blue buff denied now from Nuktak, so that way they're trying to keep him down. Pekke is still farming. So he's on even CS with Nuktak, so should Roccat fail to really exploit that early game lead they have, then Origen will comfortably scale into the late game. However, we've seen Roccat finally punish some of these early, I wouldn't say mistakes, but opportunities that Origen have left them.
I like that term, opportunities. And we see Origen looking for an opportunity, but there's a pink ward in the river, which nobody's gone to check yet.
Always check your brushes. They should know by now, but there's a ward somewhere.
I can't believe they haven't checked that. That's given Roccat all the time to set up for a fight. Steve's coming in with a teleport. He's got the shadows to onslaught on Origen. Cannon Barrage is coming down. Dragon was secured by Origen. That's 1, that's 2 kills. Niels will be the 3rd. It's just a matter of time. He's tumbling, he's ducking, he's diving, he's charmed. Niels is down. 3 kills for Dragon in favor of Roccat.
Yeah, Roccat, good vision control, you could say, or Origen's sloppy mistake not finding that pink ward. They make the right decision with the information, though, and that is key. Vander acts as if he's face-checking scared. Oscar goes to him. And it buys enough time for his team to get in position. Roccat could easily spell out the way that fight was going to go. And he said, okay, Steve, you're teleporting here. We're going to go in. And Nuktak, he was the first one to go in aggressively in that fight. He drew all the attention. Soas had to play defensive. He couldn't stack those barrels. We're going to see that again here. So Vander bought some time. They know where the barrels are. They don't really care about the dragon. They care about the fight. But watch how Nuktak engages immediately on Soas. He has to orange out, but then Steve's there in the flank. He eats Tick and them too. Soas is already too low. Midley is just dying in the AoE. His shield doesn't matter which angle it takes because he's just getting completely wrecked. And then Niels has to kite, but good Charm Flash going to come out here from Nuktak. And overall, Roccat, they take 3 kills from 1. They give up a second dragon. That's fine. They want to snowball their gold advantage. They don't care about stats from the dragon.
I was watching the minimap as well. Pekke was still pushing out that mid lane, Crepo. That Oscar that went to Vander really punishing Origen. They felt they were safe in the vision. It didn't work out. We did see that pink ward actually go down though, as Amazing and FLICKR reversed out from the fight. And Roccat going to use that wave clear mid lane. That last standing tower, there's nobody here to clear this. It's just going to be a couple of waves. Look at that damage.
Nobody can challenge it. Nobody can walk up and clear that wave. Imagine if this was any champion. Say Ari can come out. Azir obviously is banned. Lulu is banned. So good champion pool pressure from Roccat. They take away the Ari. They're on red side. Traditionally speaking, in a matchup where mid laners is the lane to watch, you see a counter pick come out on the 5th rotation. However, because we had so many bans come out, Nukeduck opted for the early Ari, put pressure on FLICKR, and this manifests in the way this game is playing out. Obviously, there's more factor than just the mid lane picks, but overall, Origen are just too weak on the wave clear side.
And I think we need to give credit to Roccat. Picks and bans worked out, got them a team comp that could give them a mid-game lead. Roccat then executed a lane swap. They then initiated some pressure, and Roccat have a lead. But this is where things get challenging. Can Roccat play the side lanes well enough to get more objectives? We're approaching 20 minutes. We've got a 4,000 gold lead for Roccat, who are, by a large margin, the underdogs in this match. Very few people expect Roccat to win, considering how well Origen played against Fnatic.
Yeah.
But Roccat have a team comp that can do it in game 1.
And the problem I have with the Origen lineup, it is so good if you could put any of these 3 champions, being Gangplank, Vladimir, and Vayne, in a side lane for a 1-3-1, and you could hold a wave clear in the mid lane. Say Gangplank split pushing top lane, Vladimir split pushing in the bot lane, your AD carry can somewhat hold mid. Fantastic. Any other iteration of that too. Problem is they all want to be in the side lane. Nobody wants to be the guy in the mid lane holding the waves, because nobody can. Vayne can't do it, Vladimir can't do it. GP to an extent can do it with barrels, but it's incredibly hard to time it. So in that sense, Origen kind of overlooked that in their composition. Imagine if Niels just picked a Corki here, something generic, just wave clear duty, utility champion. Would have solved a lot of problems, because then he would be in the mid lane right now. Pekka would be split pushing in the bot lane, and Origen would comfortably 1-3-1 into the late game.
Something generic, but it is Niels' most played champion. 9 games this split, so it's not like it would have been an oddball pick. Regardless of that fact, Origen have elected into this late game scaling team composition, and they are getting some key items. Triforce picked up. We've got Lucidity boots for both Soaz, FLICKR, Blade of the Rune King for Niels. He's working his way towards Phantom Dancer as well.
But in situations like this, what I like seeing from teams that fall behind early but have the better late game is simply pick up 2 Scrying Orbs, because the only way Roccat are really going to close out this game is rotate for tier 2 towers, and you should be able to comfortably hold that and force the fight, or they're going to bait Baron. That's probably going to be Rockat's next step. As a team, they have advanced a lot in terms of shot calling, but they still need to work on closing out the game. Yesterday, we made the remark that Roccat plays the map well, but in slow motion. Things take too much time. If Origen can cancel one of the few upcoming Baron baits and Dragon is not a win condition, 2 dragons to 0, then Origen can buy themselves some time. That's why I would like to see some more Scrying Orbs come out, or just oddly place deep wards that that Roccat will fail to sweep.
So Origen's vision is what we're going to be looking at. We did see a very quick glimpse of Steve and Soaz. Steve has gone for an early Frozen Heart, but 60% of that armor is ignored by those barrels. And Soaz easily pushes him out of lane. Steve has to respect that damage.
Steve barely made it out of that one alive. So this is what we're talking about, the 1v1 pressure on the side lanes, even drawing Vander to help. Roccat will need to start grouping up more efficiently. Push out a wave, don't fight. Never stay to fight. Always just push out and rotate. Use your number advantage, the fact that you have poke and wave clear, to siege on towers. That's what they need to do. And then eventually collapse back into the Baron area. But yeah, Amazing doing fantastic job here. Look, Amazing and Mythy, they are identifying what their lose condition is. We always talk about win condition, you know? How do we straight up lose this game if we give away a Baron? Well, just ward it. Get the Scuttle Crab. They can't deny the Scuttle Crab vision. Doesn't matter. If you're standing on it, it's not going to go down any quicker. So in that sense, they're identifying the right part of the map to play on. And then Origen, or Soaz, did a good job chunking out Steve. Roccat just lost a minute.
And Origen are going to get a tower for this as well. Roccat dancing around the map. We saw Nukeduck trying to pressure the top inner turret while Steve was holding Soaz bottom. But that didn't lead to anything. That didn't allow Roccat to gain anything more. And they're losing some of that gold lead. Look, Origen, they're not let up. They've now got some deep vision in Rocket's jungle. These are some of the tools that Origen need to avoid the lose condition.
Roccat are simply leaning too far backwards, and they're buying into this 1-3-1 instead of pushing out the lanes and grouping up together, using that on the hunt. Now Origen are actually doing what Roccat should be doing. They push down mid lane somehow. They're rotating to the top lane. They're just taking 2 towers in the top lane. The gold differential from 4,000 gold now went down to 2,000 gold. They can sacrifice this dragon if they want to. They're comfortably getting back into the game. And we'll need to see Roccat group up and get a fight. That's how they've won or gotten a gold advantage so far in this game. Every time, just group and fight.
And with Origen's comp and the lack of vision around Baron, if Roccat commit to somewhere else of the map for too long, Origen can melt that Baron very quickly. See some respect from Roccat. They've not started Dragon. Gonna try figure out where all of Origen are. Now with the ward in the pit, seem to start it. They do have good vision on Origen's red side though.
That is obviously the cost of that play from Origen on the top lane. You always need to look at plays around the map, not in like the 30-second window where the tower falls, but then add a minute on top of that to see what did Roccat gain while his Origen was in the top lane. Well, they gained deep vision, perfect triangle wards here in the bottom jungle, and they're going to use that to perhaps make a pick if he wants vision. Look, it's completely dark on the bottom side of the map because Origen were focused on the top side of the map. They know this, but now Roccat have to capitalize and even out that gold advantage that Origen got. They're going to do that by taking a first dragon.
Teleport is available for Steve. If those wards stay alive long enough, he's got an easy entry behind Origen. Dragon secured, uncontested from Origen.
And this gives Miffy information. He hears the dragon's roar, so he says, okay, I can safely assume that there's a maximum of 1 or 2 people in the Baron area, so I can face check on my own. He doesn't need Amazing to hold his hand in the support jungle duo right now. He drops a couple of wards. Look where he's placing them as well. Not in front of the Baron, but ever so slightly out of the pit. So you only need to see them walk into the Baron pit. You don't need to see what they're doing. What will they do in the Baron pit? Well, they'll be doing Baron. And that's a ward in a position that rarely gets swept. They also left one lone pink ward that obviously Steve is not going to check, because who checks brushes in their own jungle?
No, you never check them. That's the rule we've learned. Pink ward cost Origen previous team fights. And you see Amazing and Jankos going to trade toe for toe. I believe those are 2 Cinderhulk junglers as well. Amazing not going to Runeglaive, which we've seen elsewhere. But it's one of the primary tanks for Origen to lead the tanky stats.
So far this game, Roccat not going just quite aggressive enough. And Origen not panicking. We obviously, or very often we see, in situations like this, we see the losing team panic and think that they need to even out the game. Now we see Vander and Jankos move in. Oh, opening from mid-D.
Cocoon connects after the Unbreakable Will. Vander's got damage reduction, but he is caught up. Emo Plague will start ticking, but the burst will not be enough. And the cow makes it out to live another day.
They don't like cows. So many spells and ultimates used on Vander here, but most importantly, they deny much of the deep vision. Roccat want to set a perfect deep vision to punish face checks. Orange says, well, it's not going to happen. We don't want to win a fight. We just want to keep the vision away and keep scaling into the late game. No matter how much armor Steve buys, it's not going to matter since those barrels penetrate 60% of the armor on enemies from SOAS on that Gangplank pick. So he's obviously comfortably going to that late game.
Slightly different build from SOAS' Gangplank from the last time we've seen it. Heading towards that Ghostblade as his second item. Has already upgraded Cannon Barrage to Death's Daughter, which was the more optimal build. Good pink ward clear, or pink ward put down from Nuke Duck that will deny the vision that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, usually if you have only 1 pink ward to place it outside of the pit and then sweep the pit once. Blue teams are very rarely going to make their way into the Baron pit and place a ward in the back. They're more likely to play a couple cheeky wards over the wall here to just spot you doing it. So obviously, if you have more pinks to place them all. If you have only 1, place it outside of the pit and sweep the pit if you're a purple side team.
I hope everybody's listening. Hashtag get that LP with Crep.
Doesn't matter in solo queue. They can see you doing Baron, they can see you bot lane. Doesn't matter.
The theory could seep through. I am hopeful. Ever the optimist. But as it stands, 10 minutes has gone by, and Roccat have not touched a tower. Roccat have not pushed deep into Origen territory, and the gold gap is becoming less significant as 2 item spikes are hit from all of Origen.
And look at this. There's one ward right here, and then one on the right of your screen under that Gragas picture is another one from Origen. You can see it on your minimap. 2 deep wards is all they need to just occasionally spot somebody rotating. Roccat, by process of elimination, they can see whenever they walk somewhere and somebody on Origen twitches on the minimap, then they see, okay, there must be a ward around me, and then you try and find them. It's like sink your battleship kind of type of thing that you want to play, and you want to locate all those wards. Roccat are doing the right thing. They're pushing out Origen all the way because they can't afford to do Baron if Origen is that close to them.
We do see the top laners going head-to-head down bottom, while Vander, Jankos, and Nukeduck, they're going to set up. Amazing might be in trouble. He's going to rappel up. Peck and Amazing trying to disengage. Barrel will hold Amazing against the wall as the Cocoon catches out the Fat Man. Defensive flash. Mithy does have a Glacial Fissure, and he throws it out.
That was beautiful.
Gragas is stunned in place. Niels is going for a hunt in the night. He tumbles. He's invisible. Looks for Steve. Steve is down. I think Soaz chunked him out before he arrived. There's a tumble forward aggressively. A stun onto Nukeduck. One more tumble into the Condemn. That means Nukeduck should go down. It does go down. It's a Silver Bolt proc that takes him out. Soaz was greedy with his teleport, and by him not arriving, gives away a 4-for-3 fight that may get the tower.
Oh, that was an absolutely fantastic fight played by multiple Origen members up until the point where Nukeduck was on one hit under the tower and Niels tumbled forward. They completely forgot about Mr. Rawls. He cleaned up that fight, but before that, that was a beautiful sequence of events, the way they play that fight. Fantastic overall, but yeah, Greed is not good, Greed is bad. They lose their tier 2 middle tower and they relinquish the map control back to Roccat. Soaz still has his teleport for an advantage, so Baron should not go to Roccat uncontested. Alright, key things to watch here. Watch how the Repel dodges both Pulverize and Headbutt. Then they turn. Once they connect the Braum passive a little later on Jankos, because Cocoon holds him down. Mythic gonna block some RE damage, turns around the direction of his Glacial Fissure. They get Jankos. Now keep watching what happens in this fight. Niels tumbles in aggressively, Expect is there. Steve arrives, but suddenly he's on 25%. They get Nukeduck here, 1 stack, 2 stack, and now you gotta go back. You don't try to finish him off. Everybody greets here because he's stunned on the tower because of the heal. And everybody walks forward, takes a tower shot, a W from Sivir, then you get Headbutt Pulverized. Way too much. Origen could have disengaged, made this a 3-for-1 with Soaz split pushing in the bot lane. Instead, they gave up 3 or 4 kills to Mr. Rawless and an extra tower. But before that, such a magnificently played fight by Origen, and this is why they're lauded as the second best team in Europe, because in addition to good shot calling, they have some of these really good team fight synergies.
One more, another engage. Condemn comes out from Niels, the Fissure put down by Miffy. Hemoplague used defensively, but it's a distraction tactic. Soaz has teleports and is pushing up in the top lane. It was Soaz that chunked out Steve before that fight began, but he's going to retreat now.
Yeah, watch Origen right now. If they can drag more members from Roccat to defend against Soaz, they might actually rotate into a potential Baron or go back to the Dragon, who has spawned already right now. So Origen are finally able to start putting some pressures because of their teamfight capabilities. Mithy Kato.
Mithy and Pecky got knocked up by that Pulverize. This is the teleport advantage. It's come to pass. Soaz is looking for targets. Cannon Barrage will get chunked down. Mr. Rawls is shut down. The barrels come out and it won't be enough. Double kill for Niels. It was over just as quickly as it started. Origen even out the goal.
Yeah, and this is why Mithy was audaciously posturing around the Dragon Arenos. If I get caught, we have teleport to back ourselves up. Roccat doesn't. We're already stronger in a 4v4. Well, we'll completely Shrek them in a 4v5, and that's what they did. Once one Braum passive applies, that's all you need. You have enough members that can dash, auto-tag, tumble forward to get more of those procs. That's why I love Braum. You can just apply the passive and peace out and not die in the middle of the team fight. Unlike Alistar, who has to be in the middle. Yes, he has his ultimate, but if that's out, you're dead cow. So, good team fight overall by Origen and good use of the teleport advantage that they managed to get earlier in the game.
Dragon number 3 as well, 2 away from Aspect. Origen already have all the items they need to be comfortable at the 30-minute mark. They're even on gold, they're even on towers, so as it stands, there's now more pressure on Roccat to bounce back and find more proactive play. Take a look at the gold on your screen. Soaz 2k up.
Yep.
Junglers, small difference, and of course 80 carries even thanks to excessive kills.
Small lead in the mid lane for Nukeduck. Lead in the jungle.
When the gold is 700 different, it's not a massive change.
Yeah, but there's a big swing, however, on the top lane, so Soaz definitely putting his mark down. Steve is itemized for team fights, I guess. Not quite sure if I like the build because the armor doesn't really all do that much against the Gangplank. You're gonna pour it into a team fight, so the Frozen Heart is good against the Vayne, but it leaves you very weak against the Vladimir overall. It leaves Braum also a lot of magic damage, so perhaps he should have just itemized more offensively and tried to dodge the barrels and try and kill Soaz 1v1. Keep that split pressure down. Because he's getting pressured continuously by Soaz, and once he gets to the fight, he's often already dead or just too late.
Talking about the items, Soaz has had that Ghostblade completed. Very close to getting his Eye Edge. We've got a completed Randian's Omen for Amazing versus 2 cloth armors for Jankos. We'll expand on those items in a minute as Niels is going to 1v1 Steve here. with the help of a cannon barrage.
That's what we were talking about earlier. 1-3-1. Any of these side lane carries, be it Vayne or Gangplank or even Vladimir, can comfortably beat almost anything that Roccat sends their way. Maybe an outplay from Nukeduck can match the 1v1, but a Vayne can easily handle a Hecarim. It's almost impossible for tank Hecarim to take down that Vayne, because over time 2 damage will destroy you anyways. What I like is that Miffy is seemingly building towards Zeke's Harbinger. I think it's a must-buy second item for any support on this patch. It is simply too strong that you can give your AD carry 50% crit during a fight, and it will proc, and it lasts 8 seconds. That means you can put a 4-item AD carry if he goes BT 4th after Last Whisper on 105% crit. He's critting every hit at once that procs, and that can be, yeah, so disrupting because a lot of these teams don't really notice when a Zeke's procs.
Yeah, assuming he's got that Eye Edge and Shiv or Phantom Dancer. For Niels at the moment, the only crit item is his PD, but he should be relatively close to that Eye Edge. Well, at 1,000 gold, so it'll take a little longer. But for Origen, it was a risky comp, limited wave clear. It was high scaling, but they took a gamble on Rockat's penchant for playing slow.
Yep.
We're now 32 minutes in, and it's Origen with the lead. Roccat had a great 10 minutes, but...
It was close though, they were behind 4,000 gold. We see an engage here on Nukeduck in the top lane, teleport coming in from Steve.
Steve, can he make a difference? Mithy's gonna throw down the Fisher, and we see here's the arrival of Amazing. The barrel, that helped Mithy get out! Mithy manages to survive, says thank you Jankos, high five! Amazing's gonna flash forward, he's gonna try to bait out the charm, not gonna work. Flash from Pekka, Hemo Plague's got 3, he's sanguine under Nukeduck. I think the Hemo's gonna kill Nukeduck, and he does! There's Niels, looking for more, he's got himself some cow, he's looking for some beef, and Mr. Rolls is nowhere to be seen. We'll find out what they can do. Pekka's gonna sanguine again. He goes golden as Mr. Rolls continues to run away.
Where was Mr. Rolls in that fight? How did this all came to be? Roccat, they opted in for that fight. They could have disengaged, but they went for the teleport play. But they didn't look at where their AD carry was on the map. Obviously, you have to watch if some Origen member was delaying him in some sense. But yeah, good play by Origen. It always looks like they're caught so far this game. I can remember at least 3 instances where they seemingly get caught, but they peel and survive long enough for the cavalry to arrive. And then that damage from Expected. This is late game Vladimir. Obviously, if you get 3 members clumped up, you can get Hemo Plague and pull underneath them. Yeah, then you're going to win that fight.
And you get enough time to do another Hemo Plague to continue the fight. And if you already thought Origen were good in the 1-3-1, now they're 1-3-1 with Baron. It's looking a lot more dire for Roccat. And once again, out the gate, game 1 of the series, Roccat was slow against Giants yesterday. They're going to need to pick up the tempo if they get a similar pick and bans, because it's going to be very difficult to claw this game back now.
Yeah, and complete props to Amazing and Mithy for stalling that Baron threat. A couple of deep ports aptly placed at the right time. Skullcrabs killed at the right moment on the map without getting caught themselves, bought themselves enough time, because if you get a tower lead, say Roccat had a 2-tower lead in the early game, that is a couple thousand gold. If you get a couple extra kills, map pressure, CS, they had a 4,000 gold lead. Early speaking, that is a lot relatively to the time that you're in the game, but if you can prolong that lead to stay the same absolute value as these gold values on both these teams go up, relatively speaking, it falters and it becomes useless. Who cares if you're 4,000 gold difference if you have the superior scaling when you hit this 50k mark? Right now, Origen actually have the lead. They're comfortably scaling to the late game. They have these Baron minions that are nullifying the wave clear from Roccat, and they're looking to take down game 1 in this series.
Well, they've got themselves a mid tier 1 tower. Glacial Fish has been used, and the Cannon Barrage. Origen gonna not be unable to push deeper. Roccat shoving it backwards. But as it stands, Origen are happy. They've evened out the kills. They've now got a tower lead, and they are accelerating their gold lead. An incredible amount. Dragon number 4 is up, and I do not think Roccat can contest this.
Obviously don't want to walk into this Origen lineup. Right now they're strong enough when they're grouped. It doesn't matter whether you have wave clear or not, if it's a full-on jungle fight. And that is something Gangplank as a champion is incredibly good at, so is Vayne, is at punishing people that are walking into you. Because Vayne kites very well on short range, and if the front line is constantly clawing at you and you can just tumble backwards and you walk into these barrels, then obviously Origen can deal a lot of damage. And they have enough peel coming out of Amazing and Mithy on that Braum Elise combination. So right now it's very hard for Roccat to find an opening. It really has to be Charm Flash into one shot. Or Pulverize, Flash Engage, knock back with Headbutt. That has to be their window, because just in pure standoff fights where everybody's hitting each other, I feel like Roccat are getting at the shorter end of the stick.
So no flash on Jankos, Nukeduck or Vander, so it's going to be a little bit more time before those plays can be up. Luckily for Roccat, fairly squishy Soaz and Niels. should be a little easier to do that. FLICKR does have 3k HP, but not the highest amount of resistances to speak of. So even if he gets caught, he could get melted very quickly.
It's going to be incredibly hard to kill Niels too, because he went for the Bloodthirster. He didn't go for any greedy IH shenanigans. He just wants to keep, double lifesteal to stay in these fights. If you're already ahead, getting more lifesteal will only make it easier for you to survive these fights, unless you get one shot by Nukedog.
Let's see if he does. The Fisher comes out. Mythy and Amazing. They're peeling. That's the front line that Origen wants. Steve gets caught in place. Hemoplague will burn through the pop. Not going to happen because Neil's going to shoot him down. Nukedog gets crit to death as Soez finds himself another. That's 3. That's 4. This will be the ace. Silver Bolt. Barrel as well. Triple kill for Niels. Origen ace Roccat.
Yeah, and unless Roccat get a flank, one shot, 1 or 2 targets, it's simply not going to happen. When Mythy puts up that Valtor in front of the enemies, nobody's going to get to the carries. Nobody's going to get to expect it, Soas or Niels, and they completely win that fight. Once one member falls, they just simply aggressively flash in. They're taking home game 1.
Easily closed out once Origen hit the 30-minute mark. Got their items, destroyed Roccat, and Origen come away 1-0. It was a greedy composition.
Yeah, and it was just a greedy early game as well. There was no wave clear in the mid lane at all. Roccat could have easily grouped a little earlier, pushed home their advantage a little more. Origen also got slightly, I wouldn't call it lucky, because they got their advantage in the very early of the stages, say first 5 minutes, due to better strategical play. But that lane swap, that was a little more even. If Origen got a little less momentum, then Roccat could have punished them a lot harder. They were down 4,000 gold. That should be game over when you're playing against a composition like this. But Steve, he never found that flank.
Yeah.
The only time he did, he arrived at 25%.
So it's chunked with barrels.
Yeah, chunked it with barrels, and Origen just turned around and was like, okay, that's a dead horse, we're beating it, and we're turning back to the fight. Analysis, quick shot, come on.
That was good. I also want to go back to what Ducky mentioned in the pregame, how Roccat as a team could be a threat, but sometimes, more often than not against the higher tier teams, they just don't show up when they need to. They had a good draft. They had the ability to punish. And after 20 minutes, yes, they got the outer towers effectively between 10 and 20, but then just nothing else happened, whether it was respect, whether it was fear, whether it was trepidation, whatever the cause, they took their foot off the gas, and that was what allowed Origen back in the game. If Roccat had continued to pressure Origen, all of those weaknesses would have been exposed, and that gold graph would not have looked the way it did at the end of the game.
Overall, I did like what Rockat's intentions were, or their perceived intentions in terms of draft. Getting the early pressure on FLICKR. Yes, he did fine with Vladimir in the late game, but he did suffer pressure loss in the mid game, as expected in the Vladimir against Ari matchup. But overall, if Roccat can take the good things from this game, improve the bad things, so you might actually get an exciting series.
Well, we'll find out. They have the potential. That is Roccat, of course. Let's go take a look deeper at Origen's come from behind, game 1 win.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. We echo a lot of what you guys said already, so let's break it down a little bit more, because Roccat had a lot of good things going for them in the beginning of the game, even for me in the draft. Starting from OG side, they start out by banning Azir on blue side. That says a lot, and Yasuo, which led me to think they would go to different picks that they ended up going to.
Well, if you look at the draft, you can clearly see how Roccat is getting a lot of pick potential, a lot of engage. So I think Origen said, you know what, we don't want to run Varus into this. We don't want to risk the amount of engage, always, finding the right way to shut us down. Instead, what they did with the last 2 picks, the Vayne and the Vladimir, it made that comp look very, as Krepo said, very greedy, low wave clear coming in, barely any wave clear, honestly. But it was counter picks, because Vayne does really well into like an Alistar, into a Gragas, like into these big tanky front lines, as long as she can dance around and kite out in the open. And Vladimir is a good matchup into the Ahri as well. You turn it into a farm lane, and then you outscale late game, like FLICKR managed to do after he got shot down though early on. So it wasn't perfect, and this was more on Roccat, honestly, than it was on Origen.
Yeah, you look at these two team compositions, they're fairly different when it comes to how you play at team fights as well. Origen, you're reliant on barrel positioning, Vayne kiting, just so much mechanical prowess necessary to pull off a composition like that until you get later and later, until Vlad just kind of blows everybody up. The other side of it, Roccat running a very engage-heavy comp, as we saw in a couple of fights. You just pop the Sivir ult, you go in with the Ahri, lock people down, should be enough to snowball a game, especially with the lead they had. But unfortunately for Roccat, they couldn't hold it.
We did see them try and target out FLICKR though in the pick and ban phase. We talked a little bit about how Nukedog could have the upper hand on FLICKR. Bans from Origen themselves, Origen and Azir almost got tripped because I'm looking at the footage here of them talking outside. But then also the early rotation Ahri, which was a bit of a surprise, just to take it away from him, see what else can you play.
So we go into the game. Lane swap happens. And we look at it, we've talked about how Origen have improved their lane swaps, and something that surprised us a little bit was a good adaptation by Roccat. I know it was something you were pretty excited about when it came to pass. And, you know, we want to take a look at the replay as well of how Roccat reacted to the lane swap that came out in this game.
So basically what happens here is, one thing we need to note is when Origen lane swaps, they very often fast push, and they send Source down so quickly to take down this tower because 5-10 seconds means a lot. So we can just start rolling it, and we notice how Origen takes down the tower a lot earlier than Roccat will. So what it means is that Source can stay in the lane, and he has more time to farm now before someone walks down to the lane. And it also means once we start sending guys up to the top lane, just continue rolling it, we can see the Vayne and the Braum reach that top lane and basically force Steve to back away because he's going to be on his own. Vander needs to recall to get wards. Rylers need to recall to return to that bottom side normally to push that one out and stop the Gangplank from farming in a frozen lane. So that's why Roccat are moving like they are now and realizing then, oh, he's pushing the wave now. Then here where we see Soaz, he's going to shove it up because he realizes, well, I can go dive the top lane now. If Steve shows up top, Source will TP up there and just kill him 4v1. Easy peasy. So Rylers makes the adaptation. A little bit too late. He already had walked down to the bottom side. But still, he makes the adaptation saying, I have to go top because Vander can follow me and then we can defend the tower and not risk this dive happening. Had Steve gone top lane right there, he would have died instantly. He would have been down on like 5 CS and done absolutely nothing all game.
It's very much like Crepo said yesterday. Roccat seemed to be doing the right things, just in a little bit slow motion.
Yeah, and that is very, very, well, pressing. Or if we look at the rest of that game, let's take a look at the team fight that Roccat end up winning around Dragon, which is everything you want. You have a team fighting comp, you can go in there and you can win that, and that was a good decision to make.
Right, this is the difference between the compositions here. You can see Soaz has tried to set up barrels. The problem is he ends up getting dragged further away from his barrels. We can run this fight on, and there's just so many issues here. Vlad's still pushing mid. He's trying to make sure that there's no counter push that comes out after this, but look at how fast Soaz is from everything he set up to begin this fight. They get dragged down. Steve comes into the fight, and from here, Niels is never going to be able to kite this early on. He doesn't have the damage, doesn't have the mobility to stay alive in this fight, and Roccat, with a far simpler composition to run in this situation, just get the advantageous fight.
And a lot stronger at this point in the game here on the side of Roccat. Not sure why Origen would even look for a potential fight. They probably just want to sneak the dragon and just try and get out of there, but that's not going to happen versus so much engage.
Yeah, OG get the dragon, but Roccat get that team fight. At that point, after the team fight, Roccat is up 3.5k over Origen over the next 10 minutes. Instead of snowballing that lead with the Ahri that got a couple of assists with the Sivir, they go down to a 1k lead. They lose 2,500 gold, and they get no kills out of the side of Roccat, which is exactly what we called them out for yesterday.
Yeah, this is why Roccat has been inconsistent all split long, even all year long. Go back to Spring Split, it was somewhat the same. The shock calling is just not always there. They don't really follow the game plan. They don't execute it properly. Right here, you even have your Hecarim building Frozen Heart first item. That's horrible versus Gangplank because he has so much armor penetration to use. You can't one-on-one him at all unless you go like Trinity Force on the Hecarim. So instead, he goes Frozen Heart. That tells to me, okay, he's ready to dive. They have so much engaged. They're ready just to push down 2 lanes at once, dive with the Hecarim and the rest of the team because to run over them, Ahri can one-shot a target. What happens? They go back, they sit and say, oh, you know what, Origen, you know, that's a top lane wave you can take. Oh, there's a bot lane wave, take that one as well. Oh, you want to ward the Baron? Yeah, that's okay. We don't really need that Baron anyway. For 10 minutes. And you have so much engaged. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah, randomly you find Nukeduck going bot lane when the rest of Origen are put top, pushing 2 towers.
2 towers.
Yeah, the 2 towers from it. With just while Roccat were ahead with a comp that wants to snowball off a mid laner, that, you know, just looking for a pick. Very strange stuff out of Roccat. Great early game adaptations, great early team fights. Very strange slowdown.
Yeah, and even in the end, of course, we mentioned the mechanical prowess of OG coming into this game in the late game team fights. Some things like Mithy on Braum, just so close in so many instances. You were ripping about that.
Mithy is right now trying to challenge Yellowstar as much as possible as the best support in Europe. And he's just showing up. He showed up in the final. He's showing up now. His Braum pick, I mean, it's ban-worthy. He's so good in this champion, and he just blocks so many small skill shots in the fights. People don't, like, you might even not notice it. Like, suddenly a charm flies out, boom, Myth is in there, blocks it, and his 80 carry stays alive. And, I mean, I'm even moving around doing the shield movement just because of Mythy right now.
Yeah, well, we learned a lot from that game already in the lane matchups, because earlier we also asked you guys at home which lane matchup you thought would be key to taking this series, and at Bovina Ricardo tweeted, mid lane, totally. If Nukeduck gets a stronger draft, Roccat will play around him so well, it will be hard to win for OG. Well, he was pretty fed on Ari at the 20-minute mark.
Yeah, I think he was 0-0-6, got a lot of assists off there, had a Rabadon's death cap as well. They pinched the champion pool of Peke in this game, and he persevered from Roccat not pushing. Pinch it even further, force him to get pushed in on that Vladimir. I think Peke could have gone to something like a Twisted Fate if he wanted the extra wave clear, was clearly happy to go, however, for scaling.
But most of all, we're going to have to see if Roccat will fix something when it comes to the macro-level decision-making outside of the picks. We'll see. We need to take a quick break as Roccat look to come back and tie the series at 1 win apiece. We'll be back with Game 2 in just 3.5.
Hello everyone, this is Maurice Dukensteiner. I'll be your what's it called, pilot for this airplane. I welcome you to Expargo Airlines and I hope you enjoy your stay.
Peke is in so much trouble. He's knocked up, he's charmed. Sanguine's gonna come out and Ghost, but the barrel! That's 1, that's 2 kills. Niels will be the 3rd. It's just a matter of time. He's tumbling, he's ducking, he's diving, he's charmed. Niels is down.
He's dead. I've repaired. I'm gonna die, Never mind, dangerous game. Never mind. Not dangerous. Good job. Push. End the game. Really good. No, we can't end. We can't end. We can end.
And Origen come away 1-0.